focusing on the upcoming films and shows on the big screen. Others are more excited about what's soon to be released on the small screen. We're talking about video games.
Yeah, the popularity of gaming has skyrocketed in recent years. Tech Report shows there were 72 million online gamers in the U.S. last year. It's an industry that's also growing in dollars. The revenue for the online gaming industry is expected to reach more than $32 billion in 2027.
And that type of financial growth is proving that gaming really is rated E for everyone. And now that includes artists who want to cash in on the fast-growing industry, from big stars like Lady Gaga, rapper Big Sean, to upcoming singers. They are signing deals with game companies to release new pieces as background music for games and interactive events. Oftentimes, they will release tracks on those platforms before making them available on streaming services like Spotify.
Seth Schachner is with us. He's the managing director of Strat Americas, a Miami and Los Angeles-based consulting company that provides strategic guidance to clients with media and technology partnerships. The right intersection for this conversation. So, Seth, a lot of games are releasing this fall. I mean, that includes popular ones like EA Sports FC 25, Silent Hill 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, others. I'm not a gamer.
You're a gamer.
I'm like, wow, those are a lot of names.
You're listening.
But the games are cool. We have to acknowledge they're cool. But how lucrative have they become for musical artists to get involved? I mean, like, how big are we talking?
Yeah, very, very cool. Great to be here. You know, this is an area that has not only gotten increasingly cooler, but has gotten a lot more attractive, you know, financially, as kind of the core of the music industry, you know, has kind of focused on streaming, which is slowing down a little bit. And it's one of those areas that's always been around, kind of the music ecosystem, if you will. But even as someone like me who worked at a major label for years, I can't tell you it was ever like, you know, front and center to what we did. It was always kind of off the side as a licensing proposition where, you know, individual tracks would get licensed in. But, you know, over the past few years, I think there's been a lot of generational shifts. Younger audiences are social. They want to play games. They don't kind of listen to the old school way of breaking artists and music. And, you know, you've seen things like with Travis Scott or with Marshmello, or even increasingly newer bands, as you just mentioned, that are releasing into platforms like Fortnite or Roblox. It's a super cool area that comes from a different part of the galaxy. It's got a lot of untapped business potential to it. So all great.
Yeah, I mean, there are songs I remember from the menu screen on Madden when I was growing up, and I still think of these songs to this day. And they're not songs that you would have heard on the radio, but you think about them because they were always there. And what are the benefits and the impact that you see in these deals now between the gaming companies and those in the music industry?
The real thing that I see about it, because they're two historically like really different industries, even like the strategic way they look at business is like almost the opposite. One's kind of open and all about free and selling virtual goods and items. The other's been around exclusivity and content and either buying or you know, renting stuff. And that's the latter is kind of music. But I think the cool thing here is that, you know, audiences can play, younger audience, it's social, and then they will do what's called in-app purchasing, you know, upselling things, whether it's virtual goods or actual merchandise. And so it's very kind of, you know, complementary business models. And the real thing that I've seen, and I think all of us have seen looking at it, is the size of audiences that show up for these events online, you know, whether it's live or whether it's just staggered over time. I mean, you can do a Taylor Swift, you know, version worth an entire tour, if you will, you know, in a single game or live event if you do it in the right way. So it's definitely something that's overlapping. And that I think, you know, younger audiences look at games as social. They want to hang out there, they want to play, and it's a very different experience than just an individual streaming, you know, music, if you will. So it's very cool stuff, and I think the challenge for folks, whether it's artists or labels releasing music into it, is kind of finding ways to embrace this new medium and not looking at it like it's something in the past. Even the Madden stuff is probably kind of old school, and certainly if you think back to cable networks and, you know, from different eras, that's probably a little bit older school in terms of the market.
Well, Seth, because you say that's kind of the challenge, is embracing it, but also you talk about there's this overlap now with the music industry, though, in the past really being with that exclusivity factor. So I'm curious because, you know, labels and publishers, they want their music in the video games, but you got licensing agreements that are often an obstacle. So you mentioned the challenge of embracing, but what about the challenge of those agreements? What's being done to address that?
You know, it's an interesting thing. I think to some degree, they still operate as different galaxies. I think that, one thing I'd point you to is what the rights holders have done with areas like TikTok or with Meta, where they're increasingly making clips and music available for social purposes. And I think you'll probably see something that is closer to that, over the years as I think both industries get more, integrated, if you will. I mean, what's clear is that you think about going back to the old days of soundtracks, right? The Bodyguard, Saturday Night Fever, Purple Rain. I mean, this doesn't really exist in this new landscape. But I think you got to probably think about new models for releasing music into it that could be artist-driven. They may not be a function of, say, Universal or Sony doing it. And that's kind of the cool thing about it. And I think some of the money that can be made, the revenues, aren't just about music. They're about goods and virtual goods and advertising. So it's a very new landscape and really different business.
Yeah, and so many of these games too are like social media platforms on their own. It's not just like the Super Mario Brothers that you used to play growing up. I mean, it's connected. There's so many opportunities. Seth Schackner, Managing Director of Strat Americas, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.